What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Too Pop to Handle. I'm your host, Andrew Nucatola, your pop culture best friend. And as always, I hope you guys are having a fabulous week. It has been quite the exciting week over here in my life personally. If anybody doesn't know, I'm working at MTV this summer, which has been so much fun. I'm working on their event team as an associate producer for the VMAs. And I also worked on another event earlier this summer with them, but the VMAs is kind of like my focal point for the summer with them. And today, Tuesday, the day that I'm recording this, was our voting launch. So the last 2 days, and really last week, kind of like prepping for it, but these last 2 days have been really just, grind time and getting everything ready and like set to actually go live and launch. So it has been quite the exciting few days over here in my life, but exciting for the podcast as well, because we love the VMAs here at Too Pop to Handle, which is why this year is even more exciting because I'm literally working it. It's been really cool to see like the behind the scenes of, the nominees coming in and everything like that. I don't know anything more than the public knows, I will say. So like, don't come in my comments, don't come in my DMs being like, who's performing? Who's the vanguard? I have no idea. Just what you guys know is what I know. And I put that on Beyoncé. Like, I know nothing. I don't know any of these exclusives that people keep thinking that I know. All my friends are like, do you know this? Do you know that? And I'm like, even if I did know these things, I couldn't tell you anyway. But that being said, voting is live and now the nominees are out, which is so exciting. We're going to do a whole segment about the VMA nominations in just a little bit. I am so excited to dive into that. But that does mean that you can go to vote.mtv.com and go vote for your favorite video, song, artist, whatever. I think there's like 20 something categories this year. They added 2 new ones, which we'll talk about. There's a lot of options to vote for. So head over to vote.mtv.com, get your votes in, and let's make this the best VMAs ever. Let's make this one for the books. That being said, we have a fabulous show for you guys. So much music last week, so much going on in the pop culture space. But before we get into the show, I have to tell you guys, I had one of the funniest nights I have had in so long the other night. I went to go see Ginger Twinsies, which is currently playing as an off-Broadway show at the Orpheum Theater in the East Village. It is a Parent Trap parody. So it is literally the 1998 movie starring Lindsay Lohan in a completely reimagined queer millennial parody way, and it was legitimately one of the funniest things I have ever seen in my life. If you guys remember when I went to go see Oh Mary a few months ago, that was like 8 months ago now. God, wow, time flies. I saw that in January. And I was saying how like the entire time I sat in that theater, the audience was laughing the entire time. That was the exact same experience I had at Ginger Twinsies. It's definitely a different kind of humor. It's still that silly brain rot pop culture kind of humor, but like Ginger Twinsies was so on it with their references and so on it with like just pulling in the most zany millennial and pop culture things that you can think of. They were, though it was a Parent Trap parody, they were referencing Wicked, Devil Wears Prada, Mean Girls. Like they had so many just funny, silly pop culture references that worked so well in a place where they shouldn't. I had so much fun seeing the show. Like I said, it is playing at the Orpheum Theater. It is there until October 25th, I believe. So go get your tickets. The show is seriously hilarious. And like when I tell you, even if you're not a big pop culture person, which you're listening to this podcast, so I'm assuming you are a big pop culture person, but even if there's someone who doesn't always catch references or maybe you like wouldn't be able to like keep up with the show, there are so many references in this show that like I was even missing some because I was laughing at the one that they made 3 minutes earlier still. Like it just moves so fast and there's always something going on to laugh at, and the cast is just so kooky and zany. It was seriously such a fun time. I had so much fun. So thank you so much to the Ginger Twinsies team for having me and for letting me cover the show and the podcast. I seriously had a blast. If you are in New York City and looking for something fun to do, go see this show. I promise you, you will literally laugh the entire time. It was hysterical. I needed to tell you guys. It seriously was. Like if Too Pop to Handle was put into a play, this is what it would be. Like this is the definition of Too Pop to Handle. I loved it. I mean, it's Lindsay Lohan reference. Of course, I'm going to love it, but it was to a different level than I even expected. It was fabulous. And with all of that being said, enough about me, and let's get into what you guys are really here for, some pop culture nonsense. So without further ado, let's kick off the show as we always do with our our Drew releases, our new music releases from last week, and our new music releases coming up this week. We had so many releases last week, you guys. It's so crazy how I feel like one week we have no music to talk about, and now the next week we have so much music to talk about. It is crazy. I need these artists to get on a better release schedule. However, the music was so good last week that I don't even care that there was so much to listen to. It was all fantastic. Kicking it off with a soundtrack, actually, for a very highly anticipated movie over here at Too Pop to Handle, Freakier Friday. A movie soundtrack is what it takes to get Lindsay Lohan back in the studio to record new music. I will take it. I'm so excited for this movie to come out. It comes out this Friday. I'm actually seeing it tomorrow night. So if you're listening to this on release day, I'm seeing it tonight again. And I am just so excited to see it again. I can't wait for you guys to all see it and let me know what your thoughts are. Please, if you go see Freakier Friday this weekend, let me know what you're thinking. Tweet me, DM me, send a carrier pigeon, send a smoke signal, or whatever it is. I need to know every single listener's thoughts about this movie. And I do feel like it is your homework to go see Freakier Friday if you are a listener of this podcast, because I have been just shoving it down your throats for so long that I need everyone who listens to the show to go see it so I can know your thoughts and we can all just celebrate this movie together. But that being said, very excited to see Lindsay Lohan back in the studio, even if it is just for a movie. Moving on to our next release was a incredibly highly anticipated release for me and for a lot of you guys as well. It is another album, and it is Renee Rapp's second album, Bite Me, which I have been so excited for. We've been talking about the singles as they come out. We got 3 singles. I did a few reaction videos. And if you remember what I was saying to you guys after we got the last single is that I really hope Renee leans into her vocal abilities on this album more. With the first 2 singles, Leave Me Alone and Mad, they were great and I loved them and they were so much fun. But I really wanted more of that ballady, let that theater girl out. Let your theater freak flag fly. And my God, did the vocals deliver on this goddamn album. Renee Rapp, you are one of the most talented people on this planet. I'm just going to say it. I love this album. I didn't know what to expect from the entire body of work just based on the singles. We kind of got a range of things with the singles. We didn't really know what to expect. And she was kind of in this new era of I don't give a fuck. I mean, Renee Rapp never gives a fuck, but especially for this era, I feel like she has been more I could literally give 2 shits what anybody thinks about me. I'm going to do whatever I want. I mean, the lead single was literally called Leave Me Alone. It doesn't get more fuck you than that. That being said, the rest of the album is so beautifully done, and there's a little fun, there's some sad, there's some ballads, but overall, just the vocals on this album alone are enough to transcend me to another dimension. Hearing this woman sing these songs, I am just how do you open your mouth and sound like that? It is insane. Now, what I will say is I definitely want to sit with these songs individually more. I feel like I know the songs, I can, they come on, I can know the tune. They're getting stuck in my head. They're so catchy, but none of them really stick out to me in terms of oh my God, this is my favorite. This is my favorite. There's not like when I listened to her first album, Snow Angel, for the first time, when I heard Willow for the first time, I was this is my favorite on the album. Sometimes I can pick it out on the first listen. Sometimes I need a few more listens. That happened with Kesha's album. Now I'm obsessed with Kesha's album. I need some time to marinate with albums to really figure out exactly what songs I love. However, the songs that just come to my mind immediately when I was going through to prep this outline, I love Kiss It, Kiss It. I love Why Is She Still Here, which we've talked about. That was the 3rd single. I think that song is just perfection. The vocals, the arrangements on the background, it is just so perfectly done, perfectly produced. She sounds great. I love it. Kind of gave us a look into her, the relationship that when it was starting with Toa and everything going on with her and her ex at the time. It was really, I feel like she really opened up a lot more on this album and really kind of gave us a look into what's been going on the last 2 years. And with that being said, I also thought it was going to be kind of leaning a little happier because she is in a relationship and she is so happy with Toa. However, this album definitely kind of falls in that in between of her last relationship and her relationship with Toa, which we do know that those relationships did overlap, unfortunately. So, this kind of falls in that gray area. So that was another thing I wasn't sure what we were going to get, if it was going to be the happy relationship album or if it was going to be about the breakup getting into this relationship. And I was fine wherever the cards fell. I didn't mind a happy, lovey relationship album or a breakup playing the games, kind of figuring out what my next move is album. And we did end up getting the latter. So very happy there though. I'm also loving At Least I'm Hot. I'm loving Good Girl. The album is just, it's great. I love it. I'm seeing people not loving it online. What I will say is I think what's really cool about Renee Rapp is that she does kind of whatever she wants. Like, you know, she could go generic pop, and I say this with love, but like she could go like the Sabrina Carpenter route where she is just doing generic pop music. Not that Sabrina's generic pop music, but look at Sabrina's music and then you compare it to Renee. Like she definitely leans a lot poppier and a lot more like radio friendly. I mean, like imagine Renee Rapp singing Espresso. Imagine Renee Rapp singing Taste. Like, great songs for Sabrina Carpenter, but not for Renee. And I love that Renee doesn't force a pop sound into her music. It kind of comes naturally in her own kind of way that she does it. She kind of like ties in a little bit of ballad. She ties a little bit of pop. She ties a little bit of R&B. You know, she really has a fun mix with her vocal abilities because she does have this just like unbelievable vocal ability that she shares with the world ever so graciously. And I think she really has a great way of knowing what works for her voice and not trying to just like fit into a mold. Again, not saying that's what Sabrina Carpenter does. She's just like another blonde that I can think of at the moment, but you know what I mean? Like some people try to reach to fit a mold. And there's a release that we'll talk about in just a little bit where I do feel like this artist is trying to fit a certain mold and a narrative at the time, but we'll get there in a second. But I just really love that Renee really stuck to her guns and is releasing music that she wants to and not music that she thinks are going to be, you know, I need to release it so it's a top 10 hit or so it's my number one, or, you know, she's not chasing her espresso, for lack of a better word. Just loving this release from Renee. I'm sure it will continue to grow on me even more and more as I listen to it. I love Renee Rapp so damn much. Somebody else that I just love so damn much is Chappell Roan. We finally got the subway last week. We knew it was coming, didn't know when. And then I think the day after I recorded, she announced it would be coming out on Thursday night. And I am just so ecstatic that we finally have this song. It has been such a long time coming. And we finally have the fully produced track of the subway by Chappell Roan, which is so exciting. I did an entire reaction video that is up on my YouTube channel now. So you can go watch that if you want to get like my actual in-person reaction. But what I will say is I love this song. I think her vocals on it are just stunning. I think sonically, it's such a unique sound for Chappell. And, you know, it's not something that we never know what to expect with her. You know, when you listen to Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess, even that album kind of takes a few turns. But then when you look at Good Luck Babe, followed by The Giver, followed by The Subway, it is such a range of music and such a range of different sounds and genres. And it somehow all still sounds like Chappell, which is not easy to do. Like, that's a very hard thing to take on, to be able to genre bend, especially so close to each other. You know, usually you do like an entire album of a genre and then you move on to something else and you kind of change it like that. But she's really just like doing whatever feels right. Very similar to Renee. And, you know, you kind of see similarities in the two of them where they definitely aren't budging to society and to the norms of being a pop star, whatever that may be, you know, however you fall in that deck of cards. So it's been really cool to watch the two of them kind of navigate this release schedule and do kind of whatever they want sonically and promotion wise or whatever. I don't know. It's just a really cool era for pop music, but I am loving this release from Chappell. Another release that we had last week was Slater Beat Up Chanel. Now, I was saying last week, Slater is definitely not a sound for everybody. I know that. She's definitely more hyper pop, party girl, you know, that kind of vibe. However, that is exactly the kind of music that I absolutely love. And this song is incredible. It is fun. It is upbeat. It is very Charlie XCX brat coded. But what's nice about this release compared to the release we're going to talk about next is that is who Slater is at her core. Like, Slater has been releasing party hyperpop music since the beginning of her career. Like, literally her first single was such a killer hyperpop track or just like electronic kind of vibe, and like she has stayed true to that really through her whole career, which is why this sound works so well for her. And I am loving this song, absolutely loving it. And now the final release that we have this week. I talked about this last week and we're going to talk about it again. We had Demi Lovato release her comeback single, Fast. Now, historically, I am not Demi Lovato's number one fan. I don't love her music as much anymore. I loved her first two albums. Like, give me 2008, 2009, 2010's Demi. Like, Here We Go Again, Don't Forget. That era of Demi, I am all over. Like, you cannot get me away from those albums. And everything after that, I tried so hard to really get into it and like. And there were songs and things that I liked, but It just, I don't know. Demi and I have a difficult, I mean, it's a one-sided relationship, but it's a weird thing. However, I am not somebody who is going to swear an artist off really if they haven't done anything terribly bad, if they aren't like racist and things like that, then I will still listen to your music, even if I don't necessarily like you. And what I'm going to say, Fast is an incredible song. Demi sounds great. Demi looks great. The beat is great. The music video was fine. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was, it is what it is. I'm not expecting a crazy visual from Demi. She definitely is more of a vocal artist versus visual, and that's not a read at all. It's just her, where she falls in my mind, at least. That being said, the reason I'm not like, oh my God, this song is incredible is because it's just, to me, it doesn't feel as authentic to Demi as I would want her music to be. And like, it's not even a matter. I saw people online being like, how are you releasing club music and party music when you're sober? And I don't even think that is the issue at hand here. You can be sober and still like party music and still go to the club and still go out. That's not where my wires are getting crossed. When I look at Demi Lovato in today's day and age, she has kind of rebranded herself into this like Texas housewife, not trad wife, but like she's cooking, she's putting out a cookbook. Like she's very almost like wholesome in the kitchen at home. She just got married. The wedding was stunning. But when you look at it, it just doesn't look like a wedding for somebody who was getting ready to release party music and club music. And again, you can do whatever you want. I'm not saying this is like, I'm not like, the genre police. Obviously, I mean, I love Miley Cyrus. Miley changes her genre every single album. But when Miley changes her genre, she kind of changes her entire look and her vibe, and her hair is different or whatever. And yes, Demi has her hair grown out and she looks great and she's dressing very cunty and whatever. However, something about it just doesn't feel authentic to me. And this isn't, I'm not taking a jab. I don't know Demi Lovato. I'm not taking a jab at her character. I'm not saying she's this or whatever. It just like the pieces don't match up the way that I want them to. And even she released like a snippet of another song. I think it was called like Kiss It or something. And it sounds so incredible. It sounds so good. But again, I'm like, where is this sound coming from? Like, where is this in you? Because it was never, when I think of Demi, even when you think back to Demi, OG Demi, she was so like Paramore coded, rock and roll, that like grungy punk Warped Tour vibe. Like she literally, that was what her vibe was. She was wearing like, who says I can't wear my Converse with my dress? And now we're releasing a club album, which like, again, is fine. It just, I'm curious to see how this era kind of fully unfolds, because I'm just like, what are we doing here? Like Demi loves to rebrand, and I'm like, are we rebranding because we want to be perceived and seen as this like girl who can release great party music? Or are we rebranding because brat and hyperpop and party club music is trendy right now? Not to say, that's what she's doing, but just from an outsider perspective, as somebody who doesn't necessarily like stan Demi Lovato and isn't like up on all of her releases. I don't know the last time I listened to an entire Demi Lovato album, honestly. Like, again, just not my cup of tea. Not, you can have your thoughts, whatever. I apologize to any Lovatics listening. But yeah, I'm just curious to see like how this album continues to roll out. What I will say is the promo for this song specifically, genius. Going to the yogurt shop where she had that whole controversy where she like couldn't get her frozen yogurt, whatever it was. She went there and did like a video with fans before the release came out. Genius. Having all of her old memes on the screens, on the TV, in the music video. Genius. I love that she's leaning in, because that is the best way to kind of evolve. It's kind of like what I always say about Leah Michelle. As soon as she leaned into the not being able to read jokes, like it became just like a funnier joke, and like now people don't bring it up as often. It's kind of, you have to lean into the joke. That's the best way to make a meme kind of either go away or just like, dissolve it. When you're in on the joke, it's the best way to go about it. And I think Demi leaning into these jokes and leaning into these like moments in pop culture that have kind of not dented her career, but like, I mean, she can never escape Poot Lovato. She can never escape High Fatty. So she puts them in the music video. It's genius. It's the way that you have to lean in, because it's the only way you're ever going to be able to evolve past that. And I think she's doing a great job in that sense. So like I said, I'm excited to see where this album and this era goes. I will still be listening. Will I be, sitting up till midnight waiting for the release or anything like that? No, because I'm not that excited, but I do really like the song, and I am very excited to see what is next. And I hope this sound keeps up, because I like the sound a lot. I won't be surprised if in a few years, we're taking another pivot and she is releasing music that is more on trend of what's coming out at the time. But that being said, loving the track, loving all of the releases that we had last week. Seriously, a killer week for music last week. Coming up this week, the only thing that's on my radar is the new Jonas Brothers album. And I'm in a sticky situation with those three brothers from New Jersey just because the music hasn't been musicking for me lately. And like, I am historically a huge Jonas Brothers fan. So many of my friends who I know from the internet, or so many of the people who honestly probably listen to this podcast, know me from Stan Twitter, back in the day. And I love that. And I love that that's the connection that we have, because I still obviously love the Jonas Brothers as, a person who grew up with them in my life for my entire life. But I just am not, the music's not hitting the same for this album. So I'm going to listen to it. I'm planning to go see them on Sunday at MetLife Stadium. I don't have tickets yet, but that's never stopped me before. But I'm not looking forward to this album the way that I usually do a Jonas Brothers release. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm content. I have so much other music and so many other things happening this weekend. I mean, Freakier Friday comes out this weekend. That is really number one on my docket. Like, let's be real. But that's kind of where I'm at with that album. But we will chat about it next week. I will listen to it. And like I said, I am planning to go see them on Sunday night at opening night of their tour, which very exciting. So we will chat about all of that next week. And that wraps up our Drew releases, which means it is time to get into some pop culture rapid fire, some moments from the week that were just too pop to handle. But before we get into our pop culture rapid fire, I just always love to take this time to remind you guys that if you are loving what you were hearing at any point during this episode, don't be shy. Go ahead and leave me a 5-star rating. It is seriously the best way to help support the show. It would really mean the world to me. I put a lot of love into each episode, and I have so much fun doing this show for you guys. And it means so much when I see people subscribe to the show on YouTube or follow us on Spotify or leave me a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, whatever it may be. So there are little ways you can help support the show that really do go a long way. So if you are loving what you were hearing during this episode, go ahead and leave me a 5-star rating, and let's keep the ball rolling. So kicking it off with our first moment of the week that was just too pop to handle, kind of a piggyback off of last week with the whole Sydney Sweeney American Eagle debacle. We have a response, and it is not a good response. And now I am kicking myself for even considering the fact that Sydney Sweeney and American Eagle weren't trying to push a Nazi agenda, because clearly they don't give a fuck. They are literally doubling down. They are 10 toes down, standing on business. So American Eagle released a response first about the Sydney Sweeney Has Great Jeans ad. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to last week's episode. It's in my timestamps. Listen to that segment and then come back and click in now, because you got to get caught up to speed. But I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, because it is literally the ad heard around the world, and it just keeps getting worse somehow. So American Eagle releases a statement and it said, Sydney Sweeney Has Great Jeans is and always was about the jeans. Her jeans, her story. We'll continue to celebrate how everyone wears their AE jeans with confidence, their way. Great jeans look good on everyone. So they are fully doubling down on their statement. There is not a sorry, not a understand where you guys are coming from, not a we hear what you're saying, we understand, we're going to think about this. No, they are 10 toes down, doubling down on this entire campaign, and just fully being like, either get with it or get lost. And on one hand, I'm like, you know what? Sure, I respect a brand for sticking to their guns and sticking to their original campaign and their idea, because this is what they really think is the best campaign for their current season, whatever it may be. However, when the ad is fully pushing an ideal genetic makeup being blonde hair, blue-eyed white woman, you've gotta at least see the issue there. And the fact that American Eagle is not even budging a little bit to apologize for this campaign is wild to me. At least be like, hey, we are so sorry if we offended anybody. The ad was meant to be XYZ and it was taken out of context. So we hear what you're saying. We will think about it going forward. At least try a little bit. I know when a lot of these companies put out apologies, they don't mean it. They just do it for better PR. American Eagle is fully doubling down on the fact that this ad meant what it meant. You can take it or you can leave it. And like I said, I am all for a company standing up for themselves and standing up for their ad when they really believe in it. However, when the ad is making this much controversy and is fully excluding entire demographics of people, you gotta get real. Come on. That is crazy to me. And what's even crazier is the next sentence I'm going to say is that immediately after this statement comes out, the next night, or maybe that night, Sydney Sweeney is seen with her Euphoria cast members, including Hunter Schafer, which what kind of damage control are you trying to do? I don't think I've seen the Euphoria cast all together in months, maybe years, other than filming. Like, I don't see these people hanging out often, and I'm a huge fan of Euphoria. So like, I follow them all on social media. I keep up with all of them. Like, I don't think I've seen all of them in the same room in months, let alone years. And the fact that the week that this all comes out, and like the week that people find out Sydney Sweeney's a registered Republican, the week that all of this happened, now she's hanging out with Hunter Schafer, who is a trans woman. I'm like, are you trying to do damage control, or do you truly just not care? And like, also, if Hunter Schafer is being used as damage control, why is Hunter Schafer not standing up for it, along with Jacob Elordi? And there was somebody else out with them. I'm blanking on who it was, but like, the big thing here is like, if Sydney Sweeney is registered Republican, and assuming she voted for Trump, and then she is using a trans person as a shield to do like cleanup PR. Maybe it's not PR. I don't know. Maybe it is. They just like had these karaoke plans booked forever. And like suddenly, you know, it just so happened that it was the same week that Sydney Sweeney gets exposed for potentially being a racist Trump supporter. I don't know. It just seems a little weird to me. And what's also weird on top of that is the fact that like Trump and the White House is fully signing off on everything Sydney Sweeney is doing right now. And her team and herself don't think they need to release a statement or anything, which to me just speaks volumes. The fact that like they are fine with this narrative being pushed about her, and she clearly doesn't care that much. And like, I immediately am like, you know what? In today's day and age, if you are going to have that man speak on your name and support you and like use your name in a positive light, and you don't want to debunk that, to me, you love the man, you voted for the man, you are behind him, because in a world in which we live right now, where it is so polarizing, you know, you either love our president or would wish he was, you know, I'm not going to say the word because I don't want to get, you know, flagged, but you know, you wish he would, that being said, if I was Sydney Sweeney and Donald Trump spoke highly about me, and I personally didn't vote for Trump or wasn't somebody who loved Trump and his beliefs, I would immediately be like, we need a statement put out. We need to say something, like we need to get this taken down. She clearly just doesn't care enough. The same way she didn't care about this ad going live and like fully just like supporting it and signing off on it. My friend told me that she had full like creative help on this campaign too. Like she was there in the making of the ad and like gave her 2 cents and signed off on it and like wanted to go full throttle with it. So it's just like, clearly she doesn't care if people spread this Republican narrative about her. So for that, I believe Sydney Sweeney is a chop for me. And it sucks. Like, I'm still going to watch Euphoria, of course, because I need to finish the show and see what the fuck happened with Rue and that suitcase. However, I like typically enjoy Sydney Sweeney and her movies and her shows. Like I do. I think she's a good actress. But now I'm like, no, you ruined it. Like you literally just ruined it for me, because you clearly are like letting your color show and just don't give a fuck about anybody but yourself, so it seems. All of that being said, let's switch gears and talk about a jeans campaign that isn't about being racist. Beyoncé's final installment with Levi's came out this week, and it has a lot of us questioning what is next for Beyoncé. Now, last week, again, I was talking about her finishing the Cowboy Carter era and the tour ending, and, you know, what is next if Cowboy Carter's coming to an end. And with this Levi's ad coming about a week or so after the tour ending, it does kind of feel like the Cowboy Carter era is coming to an end and we are wrapping things up. So we've been covering these ads as they come out. There's been 3 different ones. Now this 4th one was essentially just all 3 of them put together into a little short film kind of situation. But what people are noticing is that in the kind of like the title frames for each part, there's a time at the top. And the times are very interesting because they go 8:35, 5:01, and 9:04. So clearly showing that like this is all within the same day. So from the laundromat to the diner to the pool hall is Beyoncé in one whole day. You know, we are following Beyoncé from start to finish, especially knowing that Beyoncé is such a visual artist. And for the first time in the last however many years, I mean, even thinking back to like B-Day and her first albums, like she was always putting out music videos, if not for the entire album, for a majority of the songs. And for the first time in her career with this 3-act project, we have not gotten a single music video. So it has been acting as the visuals for this. And Beyoncé, who is such a visual artist, I mean, her visual album legitimately changed the way music has been released for the past 12 years. We have to kind of look at what visuals we do have. And, you know, you look at the tour and you look at the visuals, the interludes, things like that. Sure. However, Beyoncé doing this Levi's ad, if you think about it, she does the Tiffany's ad for Renaissance, right? She does that whole thing. They finish the era with the necklaces. They do their thing there. Now we have Cowboy Carter. She partners with Levi's, which again makes so much sense. It all kind of comes in perfectly and intertwined. And she starts the day in a cowboy hat, and she ends the day in this short film without a cowboy hat on and rides off on a motorcycle. And now you guys know Act 3 is rumored to be a rock album. I don't know what's more rock than a motorcycle. That is very, the things are lining up. And now I don't think we're going to necessarily get an album this year from Beyonce. I don't think she's going to do that. I think she's going to continue on the same cadence. But I do think something is going to get announced on her birthday this year, maybe the Cowboy Carter movie or something, which would then signify the era officially being over. Also, let's not forget that before Renaissance ended, that era, we got My House and then we got the movie. It was literally in like the same week. And that was like the final sign off of the Renaissance era. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get another single from Beyonce and the Cowboy Carter tour movie announcement on her birthday or around her birthday or something like that. If we are just thinking of what she has done historically in this project. Again, it's only been one album. Who really knows? But I'm very curious to see what is next for Beyonce. And, I hate to be the one to be like, this looks like an Easter egg, but it does look like an Easter egg. Like this is very intentional. I don't know. I'm curious to see like how she navigates, this next and final installment of this 3-act project, because like she has to end it big. And like Cowboy Carter was so big, Renaissance was so big. How do you go bigger than that? But just when you think Beyonce can't get bigger, she does. So I have no doubts that like Act 3 is going to be insanely huge. And like, I'm sure everything she has planned for it and like ready to roll out is going to be insanity. I mean, how much bigger can you get than announcing your album at the Super Bowl? I don't know, but Beyonce will do it. Like Beyonce will find a way to make Act 3 even bigger and better than the first two. And I, for one, am so excited. But all of that being said, we know that Beyonce will give us the visuals and the music when she is ready. So I am not going to sit here and beg for them. She will simply deliver them when she is ready and when she wants us to have them. So Beyonce, when you are ready to drop Act 3, I will be sitting here with my hands out, ready for you to drop it into my palms. Moving on to the next moment of the week that was just too pop to handle. Some very unexpected relationship news. Justin Trudeau, yes, the former Prime Minister of Canada, and Katy Perry have been seen canoodling together, for lack of a better word. So while Katy was in Canada for her Lifetimes tour, her and Justin Trudeau got dinner and drinks together. Apparently, the staff said they were so nice and they were so kind and they, thanked everybody and whatever, and they were a pleasure to have in class. But how did these two end up together? Like, I'm so confused at this pairing. And I don't understand like what they have in common. And again, I don't know these people. I don't know any of the people that I'm talking about on this podcast. However, when I look at Justin Trudeau and I look at Katy Perry, I just don't see where the Venn diagram is created, like, I don't know. It just seems like such an interesting pair. And I also am like, where did their paths cross that they were able to like link up to get dinner while she was in Canada? Cause it's not like there's no way that like he slid into her DMs and was like, hey, while you're in Canada, let's get dinner. Like this had to have been orchestrated prior, or like something had to have, been like the catalyst for the two of them to know each other, and like, yeah, I'm sure they run in similar circles. Like I'm sure that they have similar friends and things like that. I'm like having a hard time piecing together how they would have known each other. And maybe it's so obvious and it's just like why I'm not seeing it. And it's like going right over my head. So if there is like a easier reason as to why these two would be friends, let me know, because for some reason to me, it is not clicking. Like it's just not coming together. So let alone the odd pairing aside, it's also so strange to me because less than a month ago, Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom announced that they were split. And who knows how long they were actually split up for before they announced it. But like they got engaged 6 years ago. Like they've been together for so long. They have a whole child together. So for Katy to be already out and about, out on the town, I mean, do your thing, girl, please. Like I don't judge people for how fast they bounce back, but like seeing like the fact that like Katy Perry is literally on tour, just had this happen and is now like out and about again. I'm like, A, I guess good for you for bouncing back, but B, like, what is going on here? And again, like if this is Orlando, I'd be having the same thing. I'm not somebody who like is looking at it weird because she's a woman, you know, I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression. It just seems so wild to me that like her and Orlando split, and it seemed like such a civil kind of thing. And like it can be, and like it's good that she's moving on, but it just seems like it's very fast. And like I wonder if her and Orlando were kind of on the splits longer ago than we know, and like maybe this has been a long time coming. But with the tour and the album, and obviously with Daisy and trying to figure out like how they're going to raise their daughter as, you know, separated parents, like maybe they just kind of kept it under wraps and navigated life as they do. But no, because they were seen together like out and about like as a couple. So like I don't know, it's just very strange to me. And like I also just, again, like I don't understand how Justin and Katy linked up, and it's so puzzling to me. And it's one of these couples that I'm going to, until I know how they ended up together and like what the connection is and what they have in common. But like, what did Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau talk about at dinner? You know what I mean? Like, what was that topic of conversation, and what were they able to converse about for as long as they were out together for? They got drinks, they got dinner, they were like doing their thing, they were walking around after. Like, I'm dying to know what the link between the two of them is, that like they were able to have this entire extravagant date together. And then not only that, Justin went to her show the next night and was like singing along to all the songs. She was like eyeing him down in the crowd. There's plenty of videos of her like walking to the point of the catwalk where he was, and like they make eyes or whatever. So like they're definitely, if there's nothing there and it is just simply two friends being friends, they are leaning into it and just like rolling with the punches, which I'm also kind of for, you know, like why not have a little fun? And like there doesn't need to be a definitive answer of like, are they dating? Are they not? Like what is going on there? It's just so interesting to me. And like, again, the Orlando of it all, and Katy Perry's had such an interesting last few years just in the public eye, as has Justin Trudeau. So it just seems, I feel like I'm grasping at straws trying to figure out the common connection between these two. And it just seems so strange to me. But seeing as Katy Perry is on tour and like is kind of still doing her thing, I don't think we're going to see much from these two for a while, if we see anything from them. I did see that Orlando Bloom was getting a little shady on Instagram, which then kind of led me to think like there is something going on, because The Onion posted like a fake article. I mean, The Onion only posts fake articles, but The Onion posted a screenshot of like Orlando Bloom seen getting dinner with blah, 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 some like other random figure. I think it was another like politician or something. And he commented like clapping hand emojis underneath. And in the post, it like made a joke about Katy Perry moving on too fast or something. So for Orlando to like sign off on it, he also posted a photo with Daisy like fully naked, like her ass was out in the photo. And I'm like, that is a 5-year-old. Like, what is going on? Just like very weird behavior, always kind of from this couple, but like especially now. And I'm just a little puzzled, and I don't know. I can't seem to connect the dots. And usually I'm pretty good at like being able to get from point A to point B. And this time I'm really struggling. There's a lot of things in my way that is stopping me from figuring out what they talked about at dinner, why he went to the show, if they are a couple, why Orlando Bloom is now suddenly being shady online when it seemed as though the two of them were going to co-parent and coexist very like civilly, and very, I don't know, it just seems like a weird 180 from all parties right now. And I'm really curious to see how this unfolds. So we will chat about that as more things come out. But I guess we'll have to wait and see until Katy Perry and Justin reunite, or something else happens with her in Orlando, and we will know what is next for Katy Perry's destiny, because it seems to just be a choose your own adventure, and she is just coasting along, figuring it out. And you know what? Go ahead, Katy, do what you got to do. But that being said, moving on to the next moment of the week, there were just two pop to handle that kind of segues us perfectly into our final segment. We are chatting about the VMA nominations, because it is officially VMA season. And as you guys know, and as I said at the top of the show, the VMAs are extra special for me this year because I am working them, and I am so excited to be covering them on the show, but also kind of like getting the behind the scenes at work. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to like talk about my actual work and what I'm doing, because a lot of what I'm doing is confidential. And like, I want to stress that like, even if I did know something, I can't tell anybody anyway, because it's all confidential. But I seriously, what you guys know, what the public knows, is what my team knows right now. So like, we are all on the exact same boat, going along with the punches. But yeah, launch was really fun today. It was exciting to like see it all kind of come together and, get the plan together and see, all the moving parts of like who's handling this platform, who's doing this. this. I was working on like Instagram stories and things like that. So it's just cool to kind of see the way that they break it up. And it's been really fun working at MTV this summer and seeing the way that they navigate. You know, I've had a lot of jobs in the social media field, and it's always so interesting that everybody does it differently. And I really like the cadence and the well-oiled machineness that MTV seems to have with, at least with the VMAs. I can't speak for Paramount as a whole, but that's how it feels on my end. But that being said, we're going to go through the nominees. We're going to go through all of the artists who have the most nominations. And then I have some artists that are also just like our Too Pop to Handle mainstays, you know, the Charlies, the Mileys, the Sabrina, all of that jazz. And then we'll go through like the big categories and kind of just give my thoughts throughout. So let's kick it off with the most nominated diva at the VMAs this year, Miss Lady Gaga. She is leading the nominees with 12 nominations. She is nominated for Artist of the Year, Video of the Year, Song of the Year for Die With a Smile, Best Collab, Die With a Smile, Best Pop for Die With a Smile, and also Best Direction, Best Editing, Best Choreo, and Best Cinematography for Abracadabra, along with some other, you know, there's more to go. My immediate thoughts here is that I am so shocked at the impact that Die With a Smile has had in culture. Like when that song came out, if you remember, it was before Mayhem, and I was saying on the show that I think this is just like a fun little single to hold us over. It's not going to be LG7 related. Like at the time we didn't even know what Mayhem was. Like I was like, I don't think it's related. It's not going to be on the album. It's just a hold us over single. And when it came out, I was like, this is cute. This is a really beautiful song. They sound great. Fun collab. And then it just kept getting bigger and bigger and growing and was charting so well, and it was everywhere, and everybody loved this song, and it ended up being like the perfect 11 o'clock number on Mayhem. Like it fit the album so well, which if you would have played me Abracadabra and Die With a Smile back to back and like told me they're on the same album and gave me no other context, I would have been like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I think Gaga did such a great job at really taking us on a journey through Mayhem and like giving us a really unique experience on this album that somehow Abracadabra and Die With a Smile can work on the same album. So when I was getting the nominees, I was definitely expecting Abracadabra, Video of the Year, Song of the Year. So when I saw that Gaga was nominated, but it wasn't for Abracadabra, I was like, wow, I'm shocked. But also Die With a Smile has been kind of dominating this year. It's been really everywhere. So I can't say I'm that surprised. But you know, when you have Abracadabra, you definitely expect it's going to get a little camaraderie at the VMAs especially. But that being said, very happy to see that Gaga is leading these nominees so highly. Next up, Mr. Bruno Mars, you know, Die With a Smile's counterpart with 11 nominees. Next up after that, we have Kendrick Lamar with 10. Coming in at number 4, we actually have a tie for number 4 most nominated. We have Rosé, and then we have Sabrina Carpenter. Rosé also got a lot of nominees with Bruno as well. Bruno was big on the collabs this year. I think all of his nominations are collab based. Between Die With a Smile and Apate, the two of those songs really just like blew up. Big year for Bruno Mars. Like Bruno Mars didn't even put out an album, and he still is like killing it with all of these singles. So you know what? Good for you, Bruno. But like I said, she was nominated Video of the Year. She's also nominated for Best K-Pop for one of her singles, which is so exciting. Sabrina Carpenter also coming in with 8 nominations. She has Video of the Year for Man-Child, Best Pop Song for Man-Child, and Best Pop Artist, which is one of the new categories that they introduced this year. We'll get into it in just a moment. Coming in with 7 nominees this year, we have Ariana Grande. She was nominated for Video of the Year, which is obviously the big one, for Brighter Days Ahead. She was also nominated for Best Pop Artist. Coming in tied with her, actually. Some people might call them musical soulmates. I personally don't want to hear them on a song together ever again, but that is just me. The Weeknd also came in with 7 nominations. So very exciting for, you know, the two of them to be tied together with those 2 nominations. That being said, let's keep this ball rolling. Charli XCX came in with 5 nominations. She was nominated for Best Pop Artist, as well as Video for Good for Guest featuring Billie Eilish. Miley Cyrus was nominated with 4 awards this year: Best Pop Artist, Best Long Form Video, Best Art Direction for End of the World, and Best Cinematography for Easy Lover. I definitely expected Miley to have more nominees, just considering the fact that Something Beautiful is an entire visual album. You know, like to me, I'm like, she gave us what is Something Beautiful 12 tracks, something like that. Like there's 12 music videos in there to nominate. I thought it would be more of, you know, a little more forward. Maybe not the most nominees this year. Like it's not bringing in 12 like Gaga, but I thought at least maybe like 6 or 7. But I mean, I'm not on the committee to pick who votes. That's, you know, that's just not my job there. But I'm especially excited to see that Miley is getting nominated for the entire long form video that is a Something Beautiful visual album, because I think it is such a beautiful piece of art. So loving seeing that getting some recognition. Coming in with 4 nominations as well is Miss Doechii, who I just cannot get enough of. She's nominated for Song of the Year with Anxiety, Best Hip Hop Track for Anxiety, Video for Good for Anxiety, and Best Choreo for Anxiety as well. So Anxiety is really pulling through for all these nominations for Doechii. I am so excited to see what she takes home. It's been such a big year for Doechii, and we're going to talk about Lollapalooza after this, but I just feel like Doechii, every single time I see her on a stage, releasing something, doing anything, she just levels up and like powers up. And it is so impressive to watch her master her craft in front of our eyes. You know, like we are really watching greatness just evolve. And I've been saying this about Doechii for months, maybe even over a year at this point. Yeah, it's definitely been more than a year. But like watching Doechii evolve and evolve, like it's like when you think she's at her best, she's like, oh, I'm going to do better. And it's just so cool. We'll get into her Lollapalooza performance in just a little bit, but I'm so happy to see her getting nominated for the VMAs this year. Next up, my girl Lorde, very happy to see her getting nominated for Virgin. She got Song of the Year for What Was That, Best Pop Artist, and then she also got Best Art Direction for Man of the Year. So loving to see that Lorde is getting some recognition. I am hoping that Lorde comes back to the VMAs this year. It's been a minute since she's been at the VMAs. I think the last time she was there is when she did that Homemade Dynamite performance, when she was like jumping around the stage because she was on vocal rest. It was like a whole thing. You guys, you know the performance. It was very jarring for everybody. And I don't know if I need a performance from her or just like her showing up at the award show. Either way, I just think it would be like a really smart idea for her to come to the show, because the tour kicks off, I think like 10 days after the VMAs. So just to get people excited and get people out, especially if she does perform, just to kind of give a taste of what the Ultrasound tour is going to bring, I think it would be a really smart move. Again, I know as much as you guys do, but the fact that she's nominated, the fact that it's been so long since she's been to the VMAs, I would love to see her make her return, especially make her, return to the stage and do an actual performance. Also very exciting, all 4 of the Blackpink girls have been nominated this year individually. And I keep talking about Blackpink because they're so present right now. They made their comeback, they're on tour, they're doing their thing. But it's so cool. I keep saying it. It's so cool to see the 4 of them be able to go off and do their own things individually, but also come back as a group and still just like kill it every time. It's such a special case. I feel like you don't get that often with girl groups where, you can all split and do fantastic and get nominated for VMAs and, do your own thing and sell out tours and, make all of this commotion, but then also come back together as a girl group and still pull the same vibe. And like, there's not, to my eye, I'm not like a huge, what are their fans called? Blinks, I think? Or I'm not like a huge Blackpink fan, like Stan, I should say. I'm a big fan, but I don't know, I don't know the inner workings of Blackpink. But it just seems like they have such a really strong dynamic within the group, but also respect each other's artistry as individuals, which is really not something you see often. So very exciting to see that. And then just running through the big categories. So Video of the Year, Artist of the Year, Song of the Year, and then we'll chat about the new categories that they have added as well. So for Video of the Year, we have Ariana Grande, Brighter Days Ahead, Billie Eilish, Birds of a Feather, Kendrick Lamar, Not Like Us, Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars, Die With a Smile, Rosé and Bruno Mars, Apathy, Sabrina Carpenter, Man Child, and The Weeknd and Playboi Carti, Timeless. Now, looking at this list, to me, I love the Man Child video so much. I think it is so much fun, so creative and just out of the box and so Sabrina coded, if that makes sense. Like it's quirky, it's silly, it's so fun. Do I think it's the video of the year? I don't think so. What I do think could win, which I'm putting my money on, is between Birds of a Feather, Not Like Us, and Die With a Smile. Again, this is fan voted. I have no idea how who's going to vote for what. I know nothing, but to me, I think Birds of a Feather, Not Like Us, and Die With a Smile, those 3 videos specifically were so widely received and seen all over. Like, people can recognize, I feel like, those videos more so than they can Man Child or Timeless or Apathy, Brighter Days Ahead. Like, I just think though one of those 3, that's my pick. I don't know if I'm right, I don't know if I'm wrong. Again, it is fan voted. You can go vote now if you want. We will see, but that is who I'm putting in as my prediction for Video of the Year. For Artist of the Year, we have Bad Bunny, Beyonce, Kendrick Lamar, Lady Gaga, Morgan Wallen, Taylor Swift, and The Weeknd. I honestly could really see Beyonce taking this. Again, this is all fan voted, so it does it matters who votes for everything. Like, that is literally how they pick the winners. I could really see people coming through for Beyonce for this, only because she's had such a crazy year between winning the Grammy, between the Cowboy Carter tour being so just like groundbreaking for her, not only just in like a terms of like career status, but also like it was breaking record in terms of like the highest grossing sales for some of these stadiums. Like, the Cowboy Carter tour was a huge moment in pop culture history, and I think 2025 was such a huge year for Beyonce. And of course I am biased, she is my favorite artist of all time, but like I could see her taking it this year. I also think Bad Bunny all of these artists, I don't want to say Morgan Wallen, but like Bad Bunny, huge year. Beyonce, huge year. Kendrick, huge year. Lady Gaga, huge year. Taylor Swift, I don't know if she had a huge year in 2025 in the way that these other artists are. Like, she hasn't really been active in 2025 the way that the other people have been. And like, of course, I love Taylor. I would love to see her win. But like, I don't know if she's going to take Artist of the Year this year, only because it wasn't really her year. I feel like, that she had it last year, and like it just doesn't seem like that's where the cards will fall. But again, it is fan voted. Swifties have a lot of time in their hands, as we know, so we will see. And then The Weeknd, I will just never be a Weeknd subscriber, unfortunately. I can't get into his music. I think he's insanely talented. He's clearly insanely talented. He's doing the Super Bowl and selling out stadiums, whatever. Like, he's just not for me. So I will never, unfortunately, see eye to eye with people who think The Weeknd should be like Artist of the Year or Video of the Year, whatever it is, just because it's not in my orbit. That's not to say it's right or wrong. It's never going to be in my hand of cards. And this is all just based on my opinions. I'm not saying whatever. I don't know how many Weeknd stands are listening to this podcast. But that being said, I think I really, 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 really want Beyonce to take it. Like, that would be just a cherry on top. Maybe it is selfish because I want it to be like the year that I'm working Beyonce wins Artist of the Year, but we will see. Song of the Year, we have Alex Warren, Ordinary, Billie Eilish, Birds of a Feather, Doechii, Anxiety, Ed Sheeran, Sapphire, Gracie Abrams, I Love You, I'm Sorry, Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars, Die With a Smile, Lorde, What Was That, Rosé and Bruno, Apathy, Tay McRae, Sports Car, and The Weeknd and Playboy Cardi, Timeless. Now, to me, I am shocked that Not Like Us isn't on this list, honestly, because I think that song really has been just everywhere this year. Like, everybody knows it. So I was shocked that it wasn't nominated for Song of the Year. However, looking at the nominations that we do have, I do think this is either going to go Gaga Bruno or Rosé Bruno. That is just what I'm feeling. Everybody knows Die With a Smile. Everybody knows Apathy. Again, this is fan voted. I can't stress that enough. So it's not like it's based on, what really was the Song of the Year, what was the Album of the Year, whatever it is. Like, it is solely based on votes. So who knows how it falls? But to me, I think those two, from just like an unbiased standpoint, I think those two songs really were everywhere this year so far, and really are the top two contenders, just looking at the list and kind of shooting the shit and seeing who I think wins there. And then one of the new categories, which is very exciting because it is pretty much all people that I absolutely love, we have Best Pop Artist, which is a new category that they added along with Best Country Artist. Interesting that they added Best Country Artist the same year that the Grammys are doing their whole country album split, but I'm not going to get into it. It's not, Beyonce didn't even release any videos this year, so she probably wouldn't be nominated for Best Country Artist regardless. It is what it is. That being said, Best Pop Artist is right up my alley. We have Ariana Grande, Charli XCX, Justin Bieber, Lorde, Miley, Sabrina, and Tate McRae. I could honestly see Ariana, Sabrina. I would love Lorde or Miley, of course, the two of my favorites, but like, I don't know if they were considered the best pop artist this year. I do think Ariana and Sabrina could have this in the bag, though Justin Bieber, I think this is his only nomination, and the Beliebers are thirsty this year. Like, they are riding for Justin so hard. So it really could go any way. I don't know. Of course, like I said, I want Lorde, I want Miley, I would love Charli, but like, anybody on this list, I really wouldn't be mad at. I think all these people have great years. I think, some of them have had bigger years than other, but I think just as like a whole, looking at what these artists have done this year, I could see this going to any of them. And I was excited to see that they are looking to highlight artists as well at the VMAs against just like their art, So we're looking at the actual artist versus the song or the video or whatever it is. We have some of the other categories like best, artist of the year, things like that. But to see them kind of highlighting the artist, it kind of just opens up the conversation more for like, you might have had the video of the year, but were you the artist of the year? Example, like, I would say Taylor Swift was the artist of 2024, but I don't think Fortnite was the video of the year and it won video of the year. So like, I think that this would have been a perfect situation where like, you can have the video of the year, but it doesn't mean you're the artist of the year or vice versa, things like that. Does that make sense? So it's cool to see that they're kind of diversifying their categories, adding new things. They will also be adding social categories. Obviously, I can't say what they will be, but they will be coming out at some point. I don't think that's confidential. That's pretty standard. They do that every year. But yeah, very exciting to just be a part of the VMAs on the back end and to be able to report with you guys and tell you what's going on. The show is on September 7th. I am very excited. It is streaming on CBS this year for the first time, which is very exciting for the network and just a new endeavor that they are doing. So it will be on September 7th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS, on Paramount Plus. You guys know the drill. It is music's most iconic night. And as many things as I can tell you guys about my experience working on the VMAs, I will tell you. It'll be a very fun episode, I think, recapping the VMAs this year, because I will be on site at the VMAs and like I'll be there for rehearsals. I'll be there for, the actual show and things like that. So it'll be very fun to do my recap this year because I'm going to have like boots on the ground more so than ever. I'm going to be really in it this year and I'm so excited. And that is our VMA nominees for the year. Moving on to the next and final moment of the week that was too pop to handle, kind of like the big thing this weekend was Lollapalooza. And we did see a lot of our Lollapalooza performers also nominated. Role models nominated. Gracie Abrams is nominated. Cat's Eye, Doechii, Sabrina, lots of crossover there from Lollapalooza and the VMAs. So, it's always nice to see when the people who are actually the big performers of the year and the people who are really making the headlines also kind of get communicated into the award season. It doesn't always happen that way. So it's nice when they do overlap at any, but any expense. So a very exciting weekend in Chicago with Lollapalooza. You guys know I love a concert and I love reporting any festivals, concert, things like that. So this year's festival, the lineup was really good. I honestly considered going and then I got laid off and I was like, I probably shouldn't spend money on a trip when I don't know if I'm going to have a job come July. And, it just wasn't really in the cards for me this year. However, I was living for the updates on it through social media. And there were just so many fun performances and so many fun moments from the weekend. So obviously we have to dive into all of them. Not all of them, because we'll be here all night, but we're just going to dive into the ones that were too pop to handle. The big ones from the weekend for me were Olivia Rodrigo, Doechii, and Sabrina. So I'm going to put them to the side for now. We'll talk about their sets in depth in just a moment, but some highlights from the weekend. Gracie Abrams, I was not familiar with your game and did not know you had the poll to bring out Robin to perform Dancing on My Own at Lollapalooza. I woke up the next morning after Gracie's set, and I'm not necessarily the biggest Gracie Abrams fan. I think she's talented, but she's not for me. And that's fine. That's, it is what it is. That's neither here nor there. I can still respect her and understand why people like her. And that's kind of where I sit there. But that being said, watching her bring out Robin to perform Dancing on My Own, we've talked about Dancing on My Own at length on this podcast and how impactful that song is just to an entire generation. So to see Gracie Abrams bring her out at Lollapalooza and perform it together, it is that's insane. That is an insane sentence to say. What's even crazier, and I found this out through TikTok, but in 2022 or 2023, the last time Gracie performed at Lollapalooza, she covered Dancing on My Own. So for her to perform it, she was definitely at a smaller stage. She headlined this year. She was headlining. For her to perform it at a smaller stage 3 years ago, and then perform headlining this year with Robin herself. And I mean, what an iconic moment for the weekend. Like, that is so major. Gracie Abrams, I gotta give you credit where credit is due. You ate with that one. Role model. Also, I just think he is so fun and so cute and just like with the shits, he just seems fun. He obviously does Sally, which is such a big moment of every night of the show during his actual set at Lollapalooza, which he should have not been on that small of a stage. I don't know if you guys saw the crowd that he pulled. It was very much giving like Chapel in the festival circuit last year when she kept getting upgraded to these bigger stages because they were like, oh, these audiences that she is pulling are way too big for these little stages that we're booking them on. Role Model should have gotten pivoted to a bigger stage because the crowd that he pulled was unbelievable. And I think he deserves every ounce of success that he's getting. I think he is so talented. I just don't understand why they didn't think to like upgrade his stage or figure it out, because like it was a massive crowd at an itty bitty tiny little stage. But that being said, during his set, he brought out the Dare as Sally, which is really fun, really cute. But what's more exciting is he did a Lollapalooza after show and he brought out Olivia Rodrigo as Sally at the after show. And I just feel like this generation of pop stars that we're seeing, every decade or so many years, there's like a new group of pop stars that kind of all click together. You think like early 2010s, there's like Gaga, Katy, Nicki, Rihanna, that kind of vibe. You think like right now we have like Olivia, Sabrina, Gracie Abrams, Role Model. And it's really cool to see the way that they all kind of find a way to intertwine. I mean, of course, Olivia and Sabrina had their past beef or whatever, which we'll get into in a second because I had a crazy epiphany on Sunday night when I was watching Sabrina's set. But that being said, it's fun to see the way that they all kind of support each other and bring each other out. And like, I don't know, I thought that it was cute, and I thought it was fun that like Olivia, this is a big weekend for Olivia. Again, we'll get into it in a second. But just seeing her like as Sally and him kind of knowing the moment it was going to be, it was just, and I don't know, I just think role model really gets it. Like he knows what he's doing. He plays it perfectly. Like everything he does is just so well maneuvered and so well done. And it's very admirable. I watch from a distance. I listen to his music, but I'm not like, I don't know if I would like go to his show and take that away from a fan or anything like that. But like, I admire from a distance. And you know, Mr. Role Model, similar to Gracie Abrams, I wasn't familiar with your game, but I am clapping for you and applauding from afar. We also had a performance from Cat's Eye this weekend, and I'm familiar with Cat's Eye, of course. Like they are very big on TikTok and very big, just kind of, they're kind of gaining this traction. And I know their hits and I know, you know, the TikTok songs. I don't really listen to them more than that. However, after seeing this Lollapalooza performance from them, I'm kind of buying everything they are selling. I mean, I love a girl group, so there's no reason this equation shouldn't work. I just never really put them on my plate to, you know, dive into. Like I never really was like, oh, let me take a second and listen, which is my own fault, I guess. I just, you know, didn't see the room on my plate for them. However, after seeing this performance of them from Lollapalooza, I was like, they are bringing it. Like they are so good, and I am so behind on this trend, but I think I need to jump on the Cat's Eye train and like get into what they are giving, because it seems fabulous. And like a festival, you know, you go to a festival to see your certain artists and see people perform that you want to see, but the beauty of a festival is being able to catch artists that you might not usually go see at a normal set. So like example, this would be perfect for me because I wouldn't necessarily go to a Role Model show on my, like a solo show. I would see him at a festival. And this is kind of similar like how I feel with Cat's Eye. Like I feel like I wouldn't necessarily like seek out a show to go see them or like, you know, go solo. Maybe I will now because I'm beginning to be a fan, but I think like the festival circuit for them is working so well, and I love when things just work the right way. You know, like a festival is made to help bring your fans out and, you know, make this fandemonium, but also introduce you to new people, and I think it's working for me. Like this festival thing that they are doing, I'm picking up what they're putting down, and I am buying what Cat's Eye is selling, and I will be tuning into them in the next, maybe I'll do a video or like a TikTok of like listening to Cat's Eye for the first time. That could be fun. Ooh, I'm gonna come back to that. That could be a lot of fun. But that being said, loving what they were doing this weekend. I just think they were so fun, and like watching them dance and all the things. It's just entertaining. It like scratches an itch in my brain. But as I said, there was a big three that I was watching this weekend at Lollapalooza, and it was Olivia Rodrigo, Doechii, and Sabrina Carpenter. Kicking it off with Olivia Rodrigo. I love being a 30-year-old man who loves Olivia Rodrigo, and I don't care who knows it. Maybe she's not for me. Maybe she's not my demographic. I don't care. I love Olivia Rodrigo. I think she is so good at what she does. I think she has the perfect look for her. Like she knows how to fully own who she is, kind of similar to Renee Rapp. You know, they're very sure of who they are, and they know the music they want to make, and they know what they want to do, and they know who they are, and they know that like what works for them and what doesn't. And I just love watching Olivia Rodrigo on stage, because I say this with love. She doesn't necessarily have like superstar pop star stage presence. She has good stage presence. I've seen her live and she knows how to handle a stage, but like she's not up there like and I hate to compare them, but she's not up there like a Sabrina Carpenter or a Beyoncé or a Taylor Swift, where she has that like superstar aura about her. And again, this is not a read. It is, you know, it's coming. But what she does and the way that she performs and the way that she uses her stage, I think is so smart. When she has her moment with the megaphone, and like when like the way she has her dancers, and like she does dance, but a lot of the times the dancers are doing their dances and she's just kind of walking around the stage doing her thing. Like I think she just really knows who she is, both as an artist and as a performer, and it just works so well. And when you think of Olivia Rodrigo when she debuted, a lot of the hype and fandemonium, of course it was with Driver's License, Sabrina, and you know that whole situation, but there was a lot of like comparison to Taylor Swift because she opened that door. She was like, I'm a huge Swiftie. I've been a Taylor Swift fan my whole life. Like that was kind of the narrative being pushed as well. And of course, we'll never know what happened between Olivia Rodrigo and Taylor Swift. I just think it's kind of, there's no reason even trying to figure out what happened, because it's just one of those things we'll never, an unsolved mystery of pop culture, if you will. But that being said, I think she's doing such a great job at like rewriting the narrative of like her favorite musicians and the icons that she wants to admire and bring out. She brought out Weezer at Lollapalooza. She brought out the lead singer of the Talking Heads at Gov Ball. She brought out Robert Smith from The Cure at Glastonbury, I believe it was. Like, she's bringing out these people who aren't necessarily in the demographic of her listeners, but it's so clear that like those are artists who are inspiring her sound, whether or not the fan bases or like the vibe really matches up. Like, I don't know how many like Talking Head fans are going to an Olivia Rodrigo concert and vice versa. But you can kind of see where Olivia is going with this like narrative of herself and kind of trying to pair herself with these icons, because she does have that star power, she has that ability in her. So it's really cool to see her kind of navigating this phase of stardom. And then, like I said, this album came out 2 years ago. She's still going on these tours and pulling these crowds, but she had her final performance of the Guts era at Doechii over the weekend. She wears a shirt with a number 3 on it. She walks into the crowd and takes off the Guts rings and gives them out to fans in the crowd. And that's her kind of being like symbolic of like, hey, I'm done with this era. We are moving on to the next thing. I'm wearing a 3 on my shirt. My 3rd album's coming next. Like, it was just such a well done kind of image for herself and an era for her to really solidify Olivia Rodrigo as Olivia Rodrigo, and not like Olivia Rodrigo, the daughter of Taylor Swift. Olivia Rodrigo, that girl who was singing about Sabrina Carpenter. Like, she kind of is now just Olivia Rodrigo and can kind of move forward, I feel like, and just really continue to create this path for whatever is next for Olivia Rodrigo. We're seeing a lot of like transitional periods with a lot of these pop stars coming up, which is exciting, because something new is going to come and it's going to be kind of like turning over a new leaf and a new era is going to start. Next up, we had Doechii, who is just... Oh my God, what a performer. Like, Doechii is truly one of the best performers that we have around right now. And if you are not on the Doechii train, I don't know how many times I can drill it into your brain. She is just incredible. This whole idea of like the school of hip hop that she's doing, it's just so much fun. And again, it shows us, similar to Olivia bringing out Weezer and Talking Heads or whatever, it shows us that she's really doing her homework almost, and she knows her history. And if you remember when she did Glastonbury, she did the whole Jay-Z tribute, and like just the way that she is able to pay homage to previous artists and then also make it her own and do her own thing. This time around, I don't think there was any like direct call outs as obvious as the Jay-Z one. If there was, I missed it, but I don't think there was anything too referential there. However, what was cool is like at the end of this set, she announces a tour. So it was kind of like her being like, all right, hey, I'm teaching you, School of Hip Hop. I'm doing my thing, and I am Doechii, and hear me roar. And she brings out JT as a special guest, which is just such a fun way to like spice up your crowd or spice up your performance. And then at the end of it, she's like, oh, I'm going on tour, by the way, and like pulls off in a Nissan Altima. It's just so well done. And I think what's most impressive about Doechii is watching her breath control, her dancing, and just like her aura on stage. It is always on 100. Like, she is always performing to the absolute max when she is up on stage. And similar to what I was saying with like Lea Michele, Demi Lovato playing it on The Joke, she still does the umbrella bit, which like could have ruined her career if you really wanted to get that technical, but she's playing into it, making a joke out of it, and it's just so smart. And seeing Doechii she's been making music for years, but like really in the last few years, really coming up and being as big as Doechii is now, seeing her playing these cards and making these moves that she's doing now, it's just setting herself up to be better and better and better every time. And I could literally talk about Doechii for hours and how much I admire her work ethic, and like just everything she does is so... It's just so impressive watching Doechii be Doechii, and like even like watching the videos from this performance and like with all the dancers and the choreography, and like I love the stage. It was the same stage from Glastonbury with like the DJ with like the speaker, but like it's just so smart, and it's like such a simple thing, but they're really able to bring this idea of Doechii and like this presence and this not character, but like this character of Doechii is so, she's like cementing herself and what's the word? Branding herself so strong now that like she is really setting herself up, like I said, just for greatness as her career progresses. It was just It was unbelievable. If you have not watched any of Doechii's live performances, just go back. I would say start with Colbert, and then I would do Grammys. And then, I mean, Glastonbury was great. Really, any Doechii set is just incredible. Every time I see her, I'm like, how are we witnessing something so incredible in front of our eyes? Like, you are just fantastic, Doechii. I cannot get enough of you. Her tour, like I was saying, she announced it. There's no New York date, but I do think that's because she's playing All Things Go. And typically, if you don't know what the festival, if you're performing at a festival, you can't announce a competing tour date until after, like in that city, until after the tour ends, which, like, if you think back to last year, Gov Ball happened. Gov Ball finished on Sunday. Monday morning, All Things Go announced Chappell Roan and Renee Rapp performing at their festival. Like, it's very, you can tell, like, I wouldn't be surprised if we get another New York date the week after All Things Go. So curious to see if she's going to do another tour date in New York, or if All Things Go is going to stand as the tour date. Either way, I would go to both. Like, I would go see Doechii every night of the week if I could. I think she's just that incredible. And we will wait and see what happens for us New York Doechii stands. And last, but certainly not least, Miss Sabrina Carpenter. This was actually the only performance that I watched live during the weekend. I was busy this weekend. I was out and about, and I happened to be home when Sabrina was on, so I turned it on, and it's just so fun to watch a live festival performance. I always try to watch at least one or two Coachella sets when that's happening, because it's just like it's a moment, we're all watching it together. It's happening live, and like, it just feels, it's a cool way to just like be involved if you can't actually be there. So I was so happy I could catch Sabrina's set. What I will say is, what the fuck was going on with Hulu during Sabrina Carpenter's Lollapalooza set? Like, why was I watching a stage worker and a wire for like 30 seconds after Sabrina pulled out the bed for bed cam? Like, why were the cuts on the camera so weird for Sabrina Carpenter's set? Like, it was going to a black screen. It was going to like these weird close-ups of her. Like, it was the weirdest camera work I have ever seen. And I looked up online, actually, I had a TikTok go kind of viral about it. People being like, yeah, what the fuck was happening? Like, did somebody get fired at Hulu because something was weird? Like, I was going insane watching this set. I was like actually pissing myself because it was so funny watching this camera work. It just made no sense at all. Like, it was so bizarre. And like, if you had a shared experience like this, let me know, because I know I'm not alone, and I need somebody to like validate my insanity, because it was so wild to watch. That being said, the performance was fabulous. So though the camera work was a little choppy, Sabrina overperformed and over-delivered and just was fantastic on that stage. And seeing Sabrina Carpenter have these moments, and like I said, Olivia and Sabrina, they were doing their thing before. I was introduced to Olivia, like everybody else, with High School Musical, the series, and then with Driver's License. So I was kind of on the Olivia train to start with, and I knew of Sabrina Carpenter, but I wasn't a fan of her. I couldn't have named a song. I could have picked her out of a lineup, but she just like wasn't in my orbit until Driver's License. So my first introduction to Sabrina, I feel like a lot of people, was she is the blonde girl from Driver's License. And she is, she stole Joshua Bassett. However, Sabrina fucking PR campaign of a lifetime, the way Emails I Can't Send came out, and I was sitting there waiting to press play as soon as it came out, because I was like, I need to hear her side of the story. And it just completely ended up being like, fuck man, and Joshua Bassett's the problem. And it was neither of these girls. Now, of course, Olivia definitely played more of like the mean girl in the situation, which I don't love. I do think that it was a little harsh the way that she kind of targeted Sabrina like that. However, she was feeling her emotions. She was feeling what she was feeling, and it is what it is. They're all cool now, so they say like it's fine. But watching Sabrina Carpenter up on that stage, closing out Lollapalooza, knowing that Olivia Rodrigo opened it, like, I looked at my boyfriend Thomas and I was like, who would have thought that the two of them would be at the same level 2-3 years later? Like, I really did not think Sabrina Carpenter would have ramped up the way that she did over the last year or two, or really 3 years now, I want to say. Yeah, 3-ish years. Like, whenever that all happened, like, she's really just like taken that by the horns, and like, similar, like I was saying earlier, like, you take something negative about you and you lean into it. I mean, literally releasing a song called because I Liked a Boy, like, that was genius. And like, that song completely just like shut everybody up. They were like, hey, this is not what happened. Like, you don't know the half of it. Here's my story. And like, that whole album had so many little things in it that like let us know her side of the story, and it kind of like filled the holes in that, you know, whole narrative. But just seeing Sabrina kind of bouncing back from that and not letting it pull her down or like defeat her. I'm sure it upset her in the time, but like just not letting it stop her from continuing on her journey, and not thinking like, you know, she knew, hey, people are still going to support me and listen to my music, whether or not Olivia Rodrigo is airing out my dirty laundry on her album. Like, I'm going to air out my dirty laundry too. And we actually have the exact same hamper. Like, we are literally pulling from the same hamper with the same dirty laundry. So we are more alike than they think. But that being said, what a fucking performance. Like, she is just born for the stage. She has such a stage presence. She has such a perfectly executed brand that she brings to this stage, and it is such a solid line. Like, there's such a through line of her music, her brand, her image, her comedic timing. Everything she does is so perfectly lined up and so incredibly executed that you have no choice but to stand. Like, there is a reason Sabrina Carpenter is Sabrina Carpenter right now, and it is because she is just killing the game, and like everything she is doing. And I'll even admit, when Man-Child came out, I was like, why are we getting the same song that we just got? But then thinking about it, listening to Short and Sweet, that album had so many different genres on it. We're not going to get a whole album of Man-Child and Busy Woman in 15 minutes. She's going to give us range like she always does. So that's on me for doubting her. But that being said, watching her on this stage, I'm like, she could just sing for hours and I would be entertained. Like, she is so well versed at performing, at owning a stage, at having her stage presence, at everything. She just has it all. It seems like she has it all figured out. Like, she's really nailing this pop star thing, and like, she is the definition of a perfect pop star. You can fight with a wall. She is perfection, and I just can't get enough. And I mean, bringing out Earth, Wind, and Fire and like doing the whole little disco set, and like that whole, it just fits her vibe so well. And Earth, Wind, and Fire is not the typical guest that you would expect Sabrina Carpenter to bring out, but it still worked so well. Similar to Olivia Rodrigo bringing out Weezer. Like, would you expect that? No, but it makes so much sense still, and it's so well done. And I love watching this new era of pop stars and pop girls and all of these, you know, they're so good at like knowing who they are and coming in so strong, and it seems like they're not backing down. You know, they're not letting a label put a limitation on who they are and what they're going to release or what they're going to do or how they're going to navigate their careers. It seems like we're in a new era where these artists are so true to themselves and really know what's going to sell and what works with their fan bases and what is going to really like make them level up to the next level and continue to just like get better as they go. And I am loving watching it happen. Lollapalooza was fabulous this weekend. They really had a great weekend in Chicago. And as somebody who loves Chicago and as somebody who just loves all these artists, I wish I was there so bad, but it did okay. I will make it there eventually. I've never been to Lollapalooza. Haven't been to a lot of main festivals. I've literally been to Gov Ball and Global Citizen, but I've never been to like Coachella, Lollapalooza, Austin City Limits. I've never been to a lot of the main festivals, and I think that's something I need to start crossing off my list in the next few years. You know, I need to get a little more well-versed in my festivals because I love Gov Ball. I love the idea of a festival, but I haven't dipped my toes in too much to the other one. So I definitely need to find my way around to the other festivals that go on throughout the year. But that's for me to figure out and you guys to, you know, tag along if I do it. And that being said, that leads us into the second to last segment of the show, which is our TV recap. Kind of a quick TV recap this week because one, watching Love Island Beyond the Villa now, knowing everything about Kenny makes me sick. Like, watching that man on that screen fully lying to Janae's face every single week, going to get a puppy to foster, like all of this, like it is so, it just makes me ill to watch Kenny on that screen, knowing the things that just came out about him and knowing that he hurt Janae. However, they can't edit Kenny out without editing Janae out. So like, I will take watching him on my screen if it means seeing Janae on my screen more, and we will just like deal with it as it kind of goes on. What I did love about this week's episode though is that there was so much more PPG heavy, which is what I keep asking for. Like, all I want is to see Leah, Serena, and Janae all together. I just want to see the three of them. I just want PPG content, and this episode was very PPG heavy. Finally, no Aaron, no Kaylor, no Liv, no, you know, none of the other bullshit going on. So I'm just glad that they seem to be rotating through the friend groups a little bit better, and I'm glad that we are kind of progressing through the season the way that we are. Hopefully it kind of keeps up that way, though I'm really curious how they're going to go about Kenny for the rest of the season, knowing that everything he's saying is lying, and he also was like fully racist to Janae, and just crazy. So we will see how that goes. But this episode, this was a better one for me. I was very happy with the PPG of it all. Hated watching Kenny, but you know what? I know it was something of the past. So we will onward we go, as we will say. And that being said, that brings us to the final segment of the show, which is my yes and my mess. We end every single episode with something I am loving and something I am not loving, and we always start things on a high note. So we're going to kick things off with my yes, and my yes this week is Jinx Monsoon on Z-Way. If you have not watched this interview yet, oh my God, it is gold. It is between like the questions that Z-Way asks, between Jinx's quick, witty humor, between the two of them just like feeding off of each other. It was a masterclass in satirical interviews, and I love when somebody can match Z-Way's freak. You know, it doesn't always happen. Sometimes Z-Way will ask a question and somebody gets they put their tail between their legs or a little like, oh, do I say the wrong thing? Jinx was like, let me hit my vape and then I'll answer your question. Like, Jinx was the perfect guest to have on Z-Way, and I loved it. It was fantastic. Highly recommend you go watch it. Also, I'm going to see Jinx and Omeri next week, and I am so excited. I'm seeing it after next week's episode, so we won't talk about it next week, but the week after, I know I will have so much to say about Jinx Monsoon in Omeri, and I cannot wait. If you want more real-time updates on that, follow me on Instagram and TikTok, because I'll definitely be posting about it as it happens. But if you are just a podcast listener, no hate, no fouls there. You will hear about that in 2 weeks. But that being said, if you need something to hold you over Jinx Monsoon content-wise, go watch her Z-Way interview. It was fabulous. And switching gears over to something that is not fabulous, my mess for the week. The Wizard of Oz going to the Sphere was such an exciting idea for me. I was over the moon, over the rainbow, if you will, at the idea of my favorite movie of all time since I was 3 years old. My all-time favorite movie getting brought to life in a whole new way, reimagined, a new way to experience it. You know, they had all of these ideas. It was the perfect movie to do it. It's whimsical. There's so many factors, and, it was so beloved, and there is that cult following for this movie that makes it perfect for the Sphere. People will travel for it, especially in between these Wicked movies. Like, it was perfect timing. However, I found out this week that they are cutting 30 minutes out of The Wizard of Oz to put it on at the Sphere. And to that I say, what scene in The Wizard of Oz isn't necessary to the plot of the movie? Genuinely speaking, and yes, I might be biased because it's my favorite movie of all time, but I cannot think of a single scene in The Wizard of Oz that doesn't help move the story along, because it is such a zany movie. It's so out of the box. I mean, the fucking lion is talking to you, and the Tin Man just came to life from an oil can. Like, there are so many things in this movie that simply don't make sense because it is a fantasy movie, and when you start to alter the plot and take scenes out of it, I'm like, what are you going to take out? Like, genuinely, I can't think of one single scene that makes sense to take out. And I went through like the soundtrack, and I went through like thinking of the movie in my head, and I was like, are they going to take out like If I Was King of the Forest? But like, that's such a character arc for the lion, and his, they go up to meet the wizard and they can't do it, and that whole thing. Are they going to take out like the poppy scene? Which no, because that's such a perfect part for the Sphere, because they can make it snow inside. Like, there's so many movies where there are scenes you can be like, cut that out, we don't need it. I genuinely believe that The Wizard of Oz, there's nothing in The Wizard of Oz that you can cut out that won't make it not make sense. And the other thing is, if I'm paying almost $200 to come see The Wizard of Oz at the Sphere, I want to see The Wizard of Oz at the Sphere. I don't want to see this chopped up AI generated version of this movie. Show me the entire movie. Like, I want to see from the moment that Toto bites Mrs. Gulch to the moment that Dorothy wakes up in her bed back in Kansas. I want to see every single moment, every single scene. I don't care if I have to sit in the Sphere for an hour and a half, however long the movie runs for. I don't care. I will sit there, and so will so many other people. And when you're dealing with a movie this beloved, you can't cut things out. Like, it truly baffles me. And I was excited about this project, but I was like, ugh, the use of AI is always kind of hit or miss. It's either great or it's terrible. Ethically, it's terrible, but like, you can do really cool things with AI. We got to give them that. And I was like, this is going to be such a cool thing for them to do with AI. And some of the stills are coming out from this production or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, you had like 200 or 2,000, however many people working on this project, and you cut scenes out, and that's what you're producing? It just it's not adding up to me. And like, the tickets are so expensive, and it's such a huge moment for The Wizard of Oz and like the Oz fandom. And It's disappointing to me that they are cutting 30 minutes out of this movie. 30 minutes is a lot of time. That's a lot to cut out of a movie. And two, if the AI is not going to be good, why do it? You know, if you're going to regenerate the movie using AI, and I understand you refilmed the whole score and you redid this and whatever, if the AI in the movie isn't going to make it look realistic, like I saw one of the stills and the clouds literally look like a Microsoft PC desktop. Like it literally, I was like, this looks so incredibly fake. And part of the fun of The Wizard of Oz is how they made the set look so real. And that's why it was such a groundbreaking moment in film history, is because this wonderful world of Oz that is obviously fake. And in the 1930s, when they were making this movie, they didn't have crazy technology to bring these sets to life and things like that, but they did it. And there's this magic behind the movie. And if you can't use the current technology to make the movie, to enhance the movie, I think you just leave it be. Like, I think you just leave it as is and you don't fix something that's not broken. And I understand if anybody listening is excited to go see The Wizard of Oz at the Sphere. I still want to go see it. I'm not going to lie. If I have the opportunity and I am in Vegas, I would go see it. I just feel like if you're going to promote seeing The Wizard of Oz, we should be seeing the entire Wizard of Oz. And I will leave it at that. I'm going to click my heels 3 times and end the episode. But that being said, thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode of Too Pop to Handle. If you liked what you heard and you're listening to us as a podcast, make sure you go ahead and leave me a 5-star rating. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe, drop a comment down below. Check out some of my other reaction videos and things like that. I have a lot of fun goodies over on YouTube. If you would like some extra moments of the week that were just Too Pop to Handle in between episodes, head over to twopoptohandle.substack.com and subscribe to my newsletter. I will have it linked down below, and I just send out some extra pop culture tidbits in between episodes to keep you guys in the loop for your weekend brunch or whatever your weekend plans may bring you. If you would like to follow me on social media, I am at 2pop2handle or at Andrew Ducatola across all platforms. And I think that's everything. Yeah, with that being said, I will catch you guys next week. Bye.